So President Biden makes the trip. He goes to El Paso. We've got images. I want to start putting those up on the screen right now of what El Paso looked like 2 days before his arrival and then the day before. So they cleaned up the streets so it didn't look like the chaos that it actually looks like every day. We could continue on with these photos as we're talking here. I mean, look at that center. Look at all of those people. And now look, there's it looks like the U.S. has, full control in that photo. This, again, is one of the issues people have, is that he did not actually see the border as it is, but instead, as Governor Greg Abbott of Texas said, went down for a photo op, but not a photo op to show how bad things are at the border, a photo op that made it look like things are stable. Greg Abbott has also, he delivered a letter to President Biden. He said, this is what you've got to do to really secure the border and help us here in Texas.
Number one, he said you must comply with the many statutes mandating the various categories of aliens shall be detained. This is, again, the unlawful entrants that are in the United States, their ability to be detained under existing statutes, and then end the practice of unlawfully paroling aliens en masse. He uses the phrase aliens, which is the legal term. I use the front unlawful entrance. That's the term I use. You must stop sandbagging the implementation of the Remain in Mexico policy, which now it looks like they're, at least according to his plan, they're going to be reinstituting that. If the president puts forward these plans that he's talking about, the need for Title 42 is going to dissipate significantly, because under Title 8 with enforcement mechanisms, you could do the same thing, which is expulsion. In other words, if you come here lawfully, you're not an unlawful entrant. You're not an illegal immigrant, as some use that phrase. You're going through the legal immigration process. But if you're here unlawfully, if you're an unlawful entrant, well, then you get removed, which is the way it should be. And then Greg Abbott also said you must resume the construction of the border wall. And I noticed in some of the pictures that they had in some of the video coming out of El Paso, they had him next to the wall, the border wall, which looked clean and protective. But, of course, there it is. I mean, look at that.
The border wall he opposed.
He opposes that, but that's what's working.
That's what's working. Greg Abbott says that's what needs to be finished. And the billions of dollars to finish it have already been appropriated.
Right.
That money is already available to the federal government. It's just the executive branch has not authorized the use of those funds to be used to finish the wall. It was Joe Biden's first visit to the border, Rick. Again, he walked by the wall that was built by President Trump and the administration you served in, a wall that he will not yet agree to finish being built, even though the money is already appropriated. The billions of dollars are already in the federal budget, ready to be spent. And he walked on clean streets that the media all was able to capture were cleaned up within, 24, 48 hours before his visit.
Look, I'm based in Southern California, and this is like a movie set. We should be jealous of what's happening down there at the border. Everybody knows this is phony. Everybody knows that he didn't want to go to the border, and he went through very quickly, and they cleaned it up, and he'll now tell all of the newsrooms in D.C. that things are going well and that this is a complicated issue and that it's not his fault. And sadly, Jordan, that we will see all of the newsrooms in D.C. swallow that line and accept it. But everybody outside of Washington, D.C. knows that this border crisis was created by Joe Biden. This border crisis was created because the current Biden team didn't want to give Donald Trump credit. So they tried to change the policy. They tried to do something different. And it was a disaster. We see what's happened. And I'll finish with this. I think it's really important that Americans, every single person that's listening to us, understand that we are the most generous nation in the world when it comes to immigration. We allow almost 1 million people a year to become U.S. citizens. Unfortunately, we have about 100 million that want to come in, so we have to have rules.
If the president puts forward these policies, if he implements these policies he's put forward, the ACLU and these groups have already said we're suing them to stop the enforcement. Now, understand what that means. If we think those policies are legitimate, and the way they read, they appear to be, and they're being implemented, and they will protect citizens of the United States, we would file a brief, yes, on behalf of the Biden administration on those issues, if in fact they're doing enforcement with laws that make sense.
Yeah.
Because, the ACLU is challenging them. The government has the right to protect its citizens.